So it's been a while since I've uploaded a video, so I've been kind of working out what I'm going to be doing going forward ever since the whole Unity controversy. So basically I used to work on a little Zelda-like game. I used to upload videos of that. People that have probably subscribed know of that, and that may not be why you subscribe to this channel. Is it about half a year ago? Is it really that long ago? I need to check. Welcome back to my 3D... Shut up me. 7 months ago. Ooh. Okay, so 7 months ago, the whole Unity thing happened. It's really been 7 months already, Jesus. And at that point, I kind of... all the wins in my sales for the project just kind of completely died, and I just stopped making the game. And then I started doing all these tutorials and stuff, just kind of to get a little bit better at 3D modeling and stuff. And I learned quite a bit. It was quite fun. I was going to finish this series, but I ended up getting distracted by Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then I've been really busy like the last couple of months. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been working on something different. I'll show that in a minute. The reason why I stopped is I'd only been kind of working on the game for a short period of time. And I was thinking, am I building a castle on sand? Is just the sand going to fall underneath me and everything's going to crumble around me? And I didn't really want to spend years trying to make a game and then suddenly decide, you know what, this is bullshit. Anyway, they did change their mind. So then I was at a position, should I go back and just continue the project, or should I, you know, not and find another engine or something? So over the last 7 months, I've kind of dabbled with a few engines, tried a few things out, while I was also doing some of the 3D modeling stuff. And that was all kind of going on in the background as I was trying to work out where I want to go. The two alternatives, obviously, is the open source Godot and Unreal Engine. There are other ones out there, but those are the two main ones. For me, Godot seems like a real good... it's got a lot of potential because it's going to be open source. Hopefully, it'll become like what Blender's become, where it's just so good that it can easily compete with the ones that you actually pay for. But at the moment, I'm kind of at this position where it gives me the vibes of early Unity. And I've used Unity for a long time, and I was kind of like worried that I'm going to hit roadblocks. Because I remember hitting roadblocks all the time with Unity, and it was so frustrating. And then over the years, they kind of got resolved. But it was just a bit of a nightmare for developing. The alternative was to go with Unreal, which is a more established engine. It's been going for a lot longer. It's been going as long as Unity. Yes, Unity. I kind of changed my mind halfway through that sentence, but yes, Unity. And it's got a lot of features, but it can be a little demanding. But the thing is, the potential for growth of the engine, not only for the engine, but it's also quite popular within the industry. So there's a chance of learning skills that will be valuable elsewhere, like later down the line, if needs be. So yeah, probably less indie friendly, probably a bit overkill for a lot of the projects I want to work on, but I'm kind of going, yeah, I'm looking at Unreal more so. I've started learning the engine, get my head around the whole blueprint thing, which is just kind of weird compared to Unity. And the other thing is the way you do programming, so I've also been learning some C++ alongside it. The problem with C++ compared to doing C# is it's got a lot of bullshit in it that is just not very intuitive, and also how you compile your projects. You can't compile and then play, compile, and play like you can with Unity. The problem is you have to compile, wait for the engine to boot up, check your thing, then it suddenly doesn't work, so then you gotta do like live what do they call it? Breakpoint, I forgot what they call it. But where you do like live debug testing and all this kind of stuff to try and work out the problem. But now I've done it a little bit. I've done a few little projects in the background where I've done like level generation stuff and all this kind of stuff in the background. And I've started to get slowly to grips with C++. I then stopped for a few months because there's a time limit on the compiler. The compiler, what do they call it? My brain's not working. But anyway, like Visual Studios or whatever, Mono Behavior, whatever it is, there's like a time limit, so you have to renew that or pay money. So I kind of stopped developing on Unreal for a little while. But now I'm getting back into it. So this is where we're at now. I've got a little project going. There's not really much here. As you can see, it's just a big empty scene. But the whole thing is I want to learn to do Unreal a lot better. I want to get better at it. And I do quite like the way you program like blocks in C++, and then you kind of bring that in visually. If I show you here, say this here and this here and this here are actually things that I programmed in C++, and then I can drag and drop these and put this into an actual flow chart. And this is for animations and stuff. I'll show this in a bit. I've had a lot of issues trying to work this out, but I'll get into that as I kind of progress. So let me just talk about my plan before I get into the nitty-gritty. Obviously, the last project I was working on was the Zelda-like game. Over the last 7 months, I've been thinking about other ideas that I might want to do, simpler ideas that I might want to do. And I've kind of been going backwards and forwards with these ideas in my head. Almost starting a project based on them, writing massive dev what do they call it? Oh my god, my brain doesn't work. Design document, that's it. I got there eventually. So yeah, I wrote design documents for all these things, kind of worked out the minimal viable product, all these kinds of things, trying to get an idea for a project that I could potentially do. And I kept coming back to that original idea with the Zelda-like. And the problem I have with the Zelda-like idea is it's too ambitious. There's too many things that I want to do with it. So I'm basically like, you know what? I kind of just want to do this. I just want to try and see how far I can get with this. But how am I going to make it work? I can't just go, well, I've got to do the level design, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and have it all work and just spend years trying to make this thing. So I tried to narrow it down to the one core thing that the game needs and the kind of focal point of the game, and just focus all my effort into that and see what I can produce and use it as like a avenue to learn Unreal. If it becomes a game later down the line, that's cool, but the whole, the idea of it is I want to make a really strong system. And the core of the game, in my eyes, is the combat. A lot of games, the core system really is the combat, because that's the one thing you'll be doing the most of. Yes, you've got to have some kind of loop, and I have got that all in mind in the background. But the main feature is combat. And the other problem I've been having is every time I've stopped making projects, I was trying to work out where that point was. What was the point in every project that makes me just go, this is too much, I'm going to stop. And every time it's level design. Level design is the one thing that always just kills my momentum when I'm working on projects. I'll get all the base systems in place. I'll get the health system, the enemy AI, and all these things ready. And then I'll get to level design and I'll start making levels and all the assets required for levels, and I just burn out so quickly. So I'm thinking, how do I get around this? So as I said earlier, I've been working on procedural level design stuff in the background around kind of Christmas time, New Year time, and I did get quite a good way into it, and I was making some pretty cool stuff. It was mostly just 2D grids with icons, but they will represent stuff that I then would spawn in all the assets afterward. That is something that I will revisit probably in years to come as part of this project if it gets to that point. But I think the main thing I want to focus on, as I said, is combat, and just try and make a really solid combat tech demo, so to speak. So that's kind of what this project's going to be. It's going to be me making the character. It's going to be me trying to just have a fun combat system. And the reason I'm thinking this is if you think of games like Mario 64. Mario 64 was designed initially, they spent, I think it was a year just on Mario's movement and jumping around and getting that to feel as good as possible. That was their core design. And the reason that game is so good is because of how it controls and how it feels to play. And that's kind of what I want to focus on. I just want to get some basic elements of what I'm planning to do and try and make it as fun as possible. And the other reason why I'm thinking this is I played a game fairly recently, which is Vindictus Defying Fate, I think it's called. Let me just look it up. So Vindictus Defying Fate, right? So Vindictus is a game that's an online game. The original Vindictus is an online game. It's kind of like a MMO, but it's mostly instanced. You get on a boat, you go to a level, you play through the level, you fight a boss at the end, and then that's it, right? So I was playing this game recently, and this is kind of like a Souls-like game. Very action combat, very more combo focused than Dark Souls is, and it's very difficult. And this guy here, this big red guy, I was fighting him, and I spent hours fighting this guy and learning the mechanics and dodging all these attacks and stuff, and it was really fun. There's not a lot to the game. It was just like a little beta demo thing, and it probably wasn't designed very well, like balanced very well. There's a lot of balance changes they need to make to the game to make it better. However, the actual combat is incredibly fun, and I was kind of in the position where I want to just make a really fun combat demo and try and learn Unreal through that lens, kind of just make something fun to play. So that's where I'm at. That's kind of my plan. So when it comes to level design, I've got a few ideas in mind when I get to that bridge. And initially, it's going to be something like how roguelikes generally approach it. And all you're going to have to do is you have a room, you have combat, you go to the next room, or you got a choice between a few portals, you go to the next room, you fight more stuff. That will basically be the basics of the gameplay loop when I eventually get to level design. But the main focus for now is I'm just going to go all in on trying to get combat right. Because then at least when you've got a core of the game there, I've kind of got their motivation to build the things that I want around it later on down the line. And if it still seems like level design is too much, I can still kind of make like a roguelike based game around the idea and then build from that. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of indie games are roguelikes, and that's just because you can recycle content quite easily. And as long as your core focus is really strong and fun to engage with, then it's, great. But here's the problem. I don't want to make a 2D game. And what I was doing with the Zelda-like initially, the top-down kind of look, I was still doing 3D characters and still doing a lot of stuff with those. And those are models that I made a few years back now. And my modeling kind of abilities have came along, and I want to push myself in that area as well. So I've made the stupid decision to go with third person game. I'm already setting myself up for failure here, but it's cool. Don't worry about it. We're going to go with it. We go in third person, right? The great thing with Unreal is this took only a day to set up this movement, right? Ignore the big green box. That's to do with interaction, right? I'll show that all in a minute. But yeah, the movement took a day. It works. I mean, I could run all the way over there. It will take me a long time, but you can walk up hills and cliffs and all that kind of stuff. Where with Unity, I had to program all that and get it all working, and it took a long time. So there's things in Unreal that take no time because they've got all the systems in place for you to make them work, and then you've got so many options to tweak. And I'll show some of those options in a minute that just make making a third-person game very easy. So that's where I'm starting, right? So I've got these two guys over here. They're obviously meant to be ladies because they've got, massive hips. But like these models and these animations, I've took this from Mixamo. So these are just placeholder animations at the moment to try and get me going. So what I've done here, so we can move around whatever, all directions the character turns. And now if I press tab, we get all these random things come up. Ignore that. So now we've got a lock-on system, right? So the camera's moving and everything. I originally programmed it in, but I found that actually a lot of the stuff in Unreal is already set up to do this. So this smoothing of how the camera smooths and everything. I mean, there are some options to when you move left and right, the character moves like more across the camera space. So I don't know if you can see my mouse. You see where this other guy is, where the green line's up to now. You can have the character as you're moving across. You can kind of strafe within the camera view and all this kind of stuff. You can just set a few options to make that work. So there's a lot of all that like stuff that I'd have to program into Unity is already there, so I don't have to worry about too much of that. Obviously, I'm going to have to tweak this a lot to get it to work in the way that I want it to work and make it feel. That was the thing with Unity a lot of the times, is I had to do these things to get it to feel the way I wanted it to feel. So yes, this is my lock-on system, so this locks on, and then I can move it to another target. So what it does is this big sphere pops up, it finds a target, and then it basically, depending on the one that's closest to the character, it will move to them, and then if I move the mouse wheel up and down, I can switch between them. This took a little while to get it working, maybe a few days, because I was still trying to learn a lot of stuff with Unreal and work out how the best way to do it. Originally I did it all in Blueprint, so if we go to here and open our Blueprint, so we've got all this stuff. So this is just all the input. I'll put these in little collapse graphs. This is stuff that I've been working on to do with something else, which I'll show in a minute. But this is all fairly straightforward stuff. I've got the whole lock-on stuff. Originally I did this all through Blueprints, but as you can see, this goes get lock-on target change. These are C++ stuff that I've all programmed in. So I did it all in Blueprints first, and then in the areas where I thought, well, this would be better in C++, I've done that. So the reason I've done that, you'll find a lot of people, they do everything in Blueprints. So they'll do this visual programming stuff. The problem I have with Blueprints is, say, if I were to go, I don't know, so stuff like this. This is probably a good example. So when this is above this, do a branch, true or false. So this is like an if statement. When this value here is higher than 0, do this, and then you end up doing this. And then when you're doing this with loads of intricate small bits of code, you end up just with a complete mess, and I don't like it. It triggers my perfectionism and my OCD. I probably don't have OCD. I'm just you know, I'm being over the top, I'm being facetious. Anyway, so it kind of messes with my brain a little bit when I've got all these things, and it's not very readable. Whereas when it's in actual code, it makes more sense to me. So what I do is I'll do all this stuff in Blueprints first, kind of get a feel for how it could work, almost like prototyping Blueprints, and then I'll make these blocks of code so I can just drop them in. So this, like, get the lock on target, all the process to get the lock on target, like cast a sphere, do this, do that. I put that into one box. So in a way, you're doing a bit of both. You're doing a bit of Blueprints, but you're also doing a bit of programming. And I quite like the workflow, to be honest, because it makes you kind of have like this meta program, which has all these smaller blocks of code, like, put in place. So this will be a box, like if I double click this and open Visual Studio, you can kind of see maybe what I'm doing here. So this bit of code is fairly straightforward. It's just get lock on target. So it's just like get lock on target. We got basically like a switch in here, which is the input, and then these will go to different other bits of code that are private that Blueprints can't access directly. So this is kind of just like a filter to loads of other things, and then it'll run these. You know, like get the lock on targets, get the adjacent targets, closest target, blah blah blah. That's for switching left and right. So that basically is what that is. So the beauty of this is you can, especially with this other stuff that I've been doing. If I show this is a pickup handler. Ignore that because that's old stuff. But like the input, it'll detect an input for you to pick up an item. Then it'll do this whole bit of code here, which tries to find what the item is, what hand it's got to go into, what animation needs to play. And if it's successful, Then it goes through here. This is actually not needed anymore. I'm going to remove this in a bit. But then I've got this call animation, which is a macro. And a macro is almost like a coroutine in Unity, which is just some code that continuously runs. So then we initialize it. Then we play the montage, which is we're playing the animation. And then this will run. And then when it gets to a certain point in the animation, it calls a certain process. This is for switching from the floor to the character's hand, and then when it's completed, it completes the process, and then we go out, and then that's it. And then I've also done this for other aspects, like this has got multiple things, so it will detect. This is for like drawing your weapon and putting your weapons away. Oops. It's for drawing your weapons and putting your weapons away. So there'll be a case where if you've got something in your hand and you've got weapons that you want to draw, you've got to drop the weapons out your hand. Or if one of these weapons needs to be put away, you need to put it away and then pull out the next weapon. So we've got basically more macros here, where this one has two call animations that happen parallel to each other. And then when this one's done and this one's done, then it knows we can move on to the next stage. And then this is the next stage, which again is another parallel process. So this is the beauty of blueprints, is you can kind of program these things in blueprints and do things that are really easy to put together, sync up animations and all this kind of stuff, without having to do it all in code, which was some of the problems with Unity, was trying to get some of these things to sync up together. When you're doing everything in code, you kind of have to program coroutines to do this stuff. Whereas, as I said, this is a bit of best of both worlds. You do sacrifice a few things. Like if I program a few things in here, I then have to press this button up here, which then compiles it. Then I have to wait for this to boot up. So sometimes going backwards and forwards between code can be really time consuming. And bug testing can sometimes be a little bit of a pain in the arse. But you can do some live running of the code, like you can put a breakpoint here and then stop the code at this point and find out what all your values are and all this kind of thing. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent explaining stuff I don't need to. This is what I tend to do. I tend to ramble. So let's get back onto what I'm talking about this actual thing that I've been working on. So we've got this. These are just placeholders at the moment, so we can do our lock-on system. And the other thing, the reason why this box is here is so like if we try and lock onto this guy, we can't really do it. See, there's a red line coming up now. I'm trying to switch targets, but because it can't see it, because it's behind a wall, it won't switch to it. So we've got all that. I've also got the other thing with this is if we go out of range, then it breaks the lock on. And you also notice we've got like strafing and moving backwards and forwards while we're in this mode. So this is all subject to change. It's just I've tried to get some of the basics down to see how it works. Then over here we've got this box here. So this, you'll see this red, this goes red, this is our interact. So if I press the button, it goes interact successful. So I've created an interact system. There's certain items that are considered interactable. So this will be like, if this is a button, we can call an animation, press a button, and whatever, and open a door. This is for level design stuff. I've just kind of put the groundwork there. I'm not going to really develop this too much. But what I am going to be developing is the item pickup system. So, anybody who's been following this channel for a long time will know that I actually once was working on like a kind of survival horror type of game. And one of the systems I made in that is you've got a left hand, right hand pickup system where you can pick up an item, then pick up another item in the other hand. And then like those items you can interact with the environment. Say you pick up a key off the floor, but you have to carry it in your hand and then put it in the door to unlock it. I still want to do that, but I want to do it in this game, in this kind of more of a adventure dungeon crawler type of game. So I've tried to incorporate this stuff already with the weapon system. So how this works is we press this and it will trigger an animation and we'll pick up the sword, like so. So you'll notice that the weapon clips to his hand at a certain point in the animation. So if I do this with this now, he'll drop this sword and pick up the other sword. So simple as that, right? Now we also have two-handed weapons and offhand weapons. So this is a main hand, so obviously this swaps out all the time. Then we've got the shield that we can pick up on the other hand. Ignore the animation, it's just placeholder, so it looks a bit stupid at the moment. But now, if you remember with the Zelda-like game, I had it so you could stow your weapon and draw your weapon, and that was going to be part of gameplay. So you'd have to stow your weapon to be able to sprint, and then draw it to go into combat. So I've retained that. So at the moment there is not a sprint, but there is a button for sprint. So if I press the shift button, it'll put the weapons away. And then if I press attack, it will draw them out again. This system took me so long to get to work because of syncing it up with the animations. And it's completely different. How you do animations and everything is completely different to how Unity works. So I was having to learn how their flow charts work and how you mix animations and all that kind of stuff. You'll see like both arms kind of animate, but the shield doesn't completely animate very well. This is just because I've got placeholder animations that don't necessarily work together. When I do my own animations, it will look a lot better, but at the moment this is just to give us the idea of what's going on here. So yes, you can put away, draw the weapons. Now if we go up to this is a two-handed weapon, so what will happen here is the two weapons in my hand will drop and the axe will be picked up, right? There's obviously no animation for this and he holds it backwards, but just ignore that. So if I were to grab the offhand now, it will drop the axe and then we can pick up the sword again. And then if we put these away, we should be able to pick this up and still have the weapons on our back. So this is the one of the main kind of features of this, because not only do I want us to be able to pick up weapons, I want us to be able to pick up other objects. So be able to pick up a box and put it somewhere, or pick up like an apple off the floor or some kind of food or a potion and drink it and then drop the bottle, right? So there's going to be certain weapons that you can stow. So what will happen is when we pick, there are a few bugs. I'm still trying to iron out a few of these things because I've actually reworked this system 3 times, I think, and it's taken me a long time to try and get my head around it, and I'll explain why I was having issues with it in a minute. But say if I pick up this sword here, if I were to draw my sword, it will drop that one in my hand, because when we pick up this sword and shield, they're registered now to the character as slots. And what I'll probably have is in the bottom corner is I'll show what weapons are registered, and then I'll probably have you able to hold a button like the number 1 key or the number 2 key to drop certain weapons that are registered to you. So say if I were to pick up this sword that I think's way better, I can then hold a button, it will drop the one that's sheathed and apply this new one to me, and then register that one. So I've still got to work out, I've kind of got an idea of how it will work logistically, but I haven't gotten that far with this yet. I kind of want to have some better animations and an actual character in the game before I start doing that, because the more and more I play with this placeholder and put all the animations in place, the more work I'm probably going to have to redo later on. So I'm at a point where I kind of want to remake my character, so that's probably going to be the next step. Remake it in more of this full kind of body style, kind of like what I've been doing with the anime character series. So there are still a few bugs with this. If I try and draw one weapon, sometimes it works. I think I may have fixed it, but the more I spam things, and I've been stress testing at the moment, trying to find which is breaking. See, at the moment the shield hasn't been put away, So there's a few things I need to kind of work out. But I'll get there. I'll get there eventually. It's just I've been doing it for quite a few days now that it's become a bit mind-numbing, so I'm going to move on to something else, and then when I come back, I'll solve all those issues. As I said, the main focus is combat. So obviously these have double uses that are going to be using for like level design and anything like that later on. But for a long time, I'm just going to be focusing on combat. So I'm trying to get this to a point where we can pick up weapons and put them on our person and then draw them when we need to and then attack from it. So that's what I'm trying to get ready. And as for what I've done with the game so far, if I even can call it a game, it's the tech demo so far. This is how far I'm at. Something I didn't quite understand about blueprints and events and how a lot of these things work is what I was having before is you'll see with this one. An event's called and an item's passed through. And then this item goes into this. And then what I was doing is, as you can see now, this comes out of here like this and into the call animation. But what I was doing before is this would come out here. I'll try and recreate it. This would come out like this. And we didn't have this item output here. So then this item would come in, it would follow down here and then go into the call animation, and then this would have a similar thing where the item, you can see here how it links into these. The reason I was doing it this way is so I didn't have to cache the item into memory and have to deal with all that complication. But the problem is when this event gets called again and fails here, so it goes in here, it's like, okay, the item, this is the item, do the check, oh it's successful, go through and then do the animation. Then this here, this code here is preventing this from being called again. So this will get called, realise that there's already animation going on, and then it will stop it. But the problem is, the item data will be updated. So it would cause a lot of weird issues. Like I could drop a sword and go to pick up another sword, but then suddenly pick up the same sword that I was already carrying by spamming the button, because it would be like in the animation and then change the information required for this call item process here, which was to move that item to the hand. And as you can imagine, if you start spamming loads of buttons, drawing the weapon, putting the weapon away, you get a lot of issues that way. So what I actually discovered is if I could use the actual function as a way to cache the item. This is the input item. So we've got the item here in the code. So this is what this is here. And then we've also got another one called item, but it's got an underscore in front. This is a reference. So what happens here? What happens here is this item that comes in here is separate to what this is. And it's a bit weird how it works, but it's kind of creating like a dividing line between what this item is here and what this item is here. They're like separate entities in a way. And then what you can do then is this item's always cached, and if you've got a macro running like this call animation that is called over multiple frames, not at any point can that item be changed because it's already locked in this, is contained in this kind of part of the code into this line here. You're not having this interrupt it. It's really complicated to kind of try and explain it, but it's almost like don't let the streams cross, because once this item here changes, it changes everything. So you're caching it here instead. So the item comes in, say it's a sword, then it will write that into the memory. It will tell this, it will down here, it's like this item equals this item. But you'll see that before this code here, if it fails, it's never overwriting what this item here is. That will just be stored as long as it's being called through the macro. So I've noticed with a lot of the pre-made blueprints that they actually have an input and an output. It's like if you were to create a variable and then do drag this and then have set. You'll see that you have a input to set it, but then you have an output out. And this is basically what this is doing now. So that solved so many problems. I'd already remade the system twice because I couldn't work out what was breaking it. And I worked out that it was this. Every time this was called, it was editing the item. So sometimes you would pick up the wrong item or pick up an item that you've literally just dropped. Or you would draw an item, or an item wouldn't draw because it suddenly the reference had changed midway through the animation. So I solved that. It was a headache, but now I understand how Unreal works with these types of things. I can really exploit this whole reference thing. So you're basically like caching it within this, within the function in a way. So this is instead of going over here and creating item cache and then having it whatever it would be, pickup item it's called. Right, so you'd have like an item cache and then you'd do set, and then you'd go through here and you'd set the item and all this crap. You don't need to do that. You can set it up this way, and you'll notice that I've done it a few times. So when this comes into here, there's a lot of checks in here. So we've also put the item to come out of here as well, so that's a separate reference. The difference is it's quite, if you look really carefully, see where it says item and how it aligns with the P. But on this one, it doesn't align with a P because there's an underscore in front of it. So it's a separate variable in a sense. So I solved that. It's all good. Now I just need to iron out the little kinks here and there where we've kind of got whatever happening. But I'll do that over time. I'll solve all that. And I'm sure I'll come across more pugs. I'm sure I'll come across more bugs as I go forward with that. Yeah, so all in all, this is kind of about it. This is all I've got so far. But I'm going to try and make it combat focused, about dodging, attacking. Some people have complained in some of the previous videos that I did about me doing a stamina system. They weren't happy about it. I'm in two minds about if I would do that still. I have got some alternative ideas in mind. That I've all got planned out. I've kind of done a whole dev. I've got a thing called Obsidian. So to anybody who's going to be planning out their projects in the future, I suggest using this program, which is free. It's called Obsidian, and it's basically like a wiki that you can set up. So it'll create this kind of flowchart so you can see all the ideas you've got together. So I've just write loads of ideas. I've write down what my milestones are and everything, and you can link them together. So I could press on this, and then this will like have all the ideas that I've got in mind, and then they all link together, so you can create all these hyperlinks, basically like a wiki. I've used this for like, not only for like dev stuff, I've also done it for writing stories and stuff like that as well, which is, you know, it's really, really good. In the background, I'm constantly writing down all the ideas I have and linking them together and trying to work out how the combat system could potentially work. Obviously later down the line this could change, but that's what I'm also doing with this project. I'm trying to make it as narrow as possible. I'm only going to focus on like one weapon, and then try and focus on getting one enemy type in there, and just get the movement and the attacking and everything to feel really good, and then slowly introduce more items and more enemy variants to it. And that's all I'm going to be focusing on. I'm not going to even touch level design, because the moment I touch level design, I just lose all motivation and just feel like this is too much to do. Almost like breaking the project down into small segments and going, this is just going to be a project. It's going to take me a while to do this. It's going to be what I focus on. I'm going to just do this, even if it takes me a year, just to get like somewhere with a combat system that is fun to play, that I can get other people to test and try out and give me feedback, and not even think of it as a game, but think of it as a project. And that's just the way I'm going to approach this from now on, because I've quit working on 2 games on this channel, basically because of level design. So I guess a core theme about this video in general is just this idea of perfectionism, right? So I just have a massive problem with perfectionism and really getting into like nitty-gritty details and spending a long time on stuff that I probably shouldn't. And the way I've recorded this video is by just talking and not really stopping, just going for it. All my mistakes are probably still going to be in here. I might cut a few out, but I'm going to just leave them in there, and you can laugh at how stupid I am. It's cool. Don't worry about it. Because, to be honest, it's a bit of a pain in the ass to edit videos, because the problem I was having with the Zelda-like project is I would work on something for about a week, and then I would start making a video, which would also take a week, and then I would then have to like upload that, and it was just felt like this. I'm wasting so much time. I want to be making a game. I don't want to be making like highly edited videos with loads of details. So what I'm just going to be doing is doing a video like this, talking about what I've been up to, probably rambling longer than I should, and then when I get to a point where I feel like I've done a lot of stuff, then I'll do a proper edited video, and I'll do like a proper devlog. So this is just going to be called update 1 or something. It'll probably say starting again because I'm stupid, and then that'll be it, right? And not edited. I'll repeat myself 20 times in the video. It's cool. Don't worry about it. Because if I start editing the video and trying to well, I probably will edit the video, but if I start going like too crazy with scripting a video and editing it and stuff, it just takes so long. I want to be able to do something like this, like a video in a day, get it out, and get some feedback from people and some interaction with you guys, and then, you know, I can move on to actually working on what matters, which is the game. But outside of that, I'm kind of thinking about doing this with like other content that I do make. To anybody that's only subscribed to this channel, I actually have had a few channels before this, because I used to do a lot of Genshin Impact content, and I kind of wanted to move away from Genshin Impact content, so I started doing game dev stuff, and I've kind of been in a bit of limbo for a while, trying to work out what I want to do with YouTube in general. And game dev is something that I am passionate about. I want to make games. I've always wanted to make games. So I'm going to be doing that as when I've got the time, obviously, as the main focus. But I also do still want to make other content and every now and again. So this whole kind of perfectionist thing needs to go out the window, because every time I think about really cool video ideas I've got for stuff that isn't related to game dev, well, it is kind of related to game dev, but not. I'm thinking it's just going to take me too long to do it. It's too much of a time investment, and I want to be doing other things. So my whole philosophy now needs to shift. I need to stop being perfectionist. I need to just make videos and get them out there and speak my mind and ramble for a bit. So I have got another channel just called Facepalme. I'll put that in a link in the description down below. I'm probably going to do videos where I just ramble about stuff on there. Probably mostly about video games, either gotcha games or actual proper video games that aren't there to steal all your money. But whenever I play something and I feel I've got stuff to say about it, I'm just going to do a video like this where I speak off the cuff and talk about, you know, the good things, the bad things, and you like recommend it or whatever, and maybe have a few jokes if I can even, you know, muster a joke that is kind of funny, which is kind of difficult because I'm not that smart, but it's fine. Yes, so the other channel that I've got is a streaming channel. So I do stream very so often. Sometimes I have like bouts where I stream a lot. I'm trying to not get too invested into streaming because a lot of the time is I have basically 0 viewers. There'll be like 1 or 2 people that come along, which is great, like regulars. But I kind of do it as a bit of, I should be doing it as a bit of fun and not trying to do it all the time just because. So recently I've been playing Final Fantasy 16 on every like weekend or every other weekend, depending on when. So if you're interested in coming out and hanging out, then do follow me on that channel as well. Some of the games I probably play and eventually complete on there, I might do videos just on a whim, just kind of talk about how I feel about it, if I feel like it's worth it. So again, those 2 channels are there for people if they want to see other content that I make. This is going to be my priority though, making this, whatever this monstrosity is going to become. So I hope that you will follow along and give me feedback. And that's about it. Oh, as for Patreon, I haven't really been putting anything on Patreon recently because I've just been busy. But I'm going to have a bit more free time. For a couple of months, I'm not sure. I might become really busy again. We'll see. But yeah, so Patreon, I'm going to try and start posting more on there. I say this all the time. Every time I come back, I'd like reset myself. I'm like, I'm going to do a lot more on Patreon. I'm going to post more on there. Right. I'm going to try, and some of the ideas that I'm doing, some of the things I'm working on here, if I'm not going to put it, if this is not enough to put on a video yet, I'll probably post on Patreon. And that also matters for people that are not going to be like giving money over. I'm going to try and make some of them more public, because I have got a few free users on Patreon, people that are following for free, but they don't see any of the content. So I'm thinking, well, it would be nice to share some of that stuff with people as well. I may still do private posts for people that do like pay, but I don't want to really like gate content for people too much. So if you're not following me on Patreon and you just want to see some of those extra news snippets and that, then please do so. It's nice to see that people are actually interested in what you're doing, and it does help motivate you a little bit. So please do, and I'll try my best to post screenshots or little bits of text just talking about what I'm doing over on there. And that's about it. So if you enjoyed the video, I don't know why you would, because it's just been rambling, but if you did enjoy the video, leave a like, leave a comment. It all helps against, the algorithm and all that kind of crazy weird stuff that happens with YouTube that I'm going to try not get stressed out about and get too involved with. I'm just going to upload videos now, because I've been there trying to min-max stuff. It's just such a pain in the ass. I hate it so much. Again, it messes with my whole perfectionist brain. I need to get away from that. But I just rambled again. I'm on another tangent. We're on another tangent, boys. Don't worry about it. What was I even saying? Yes. So, thank you for watching. Do all those things that I said that I've already forgot what they were. Follow me on Patreon or whatever if you want to. You don't have to, but you probably should. It probably is good for everybody if you do, because if you don't, I'll probably kill a puppy. And if you want to do none of that, would you kindly bugger off?
Maybe.